Hello, everybody, and welcome again to the Nassar 17 podcast. We're just going to do our kind of our normal weekly update with our buddy Mark here, and we just want to, get on there and let everyone know we're thinking about you. And you know, I'm, I need to get more people scheduled for the podcast, so you might see a little bit of a lull there with interview guests. But the reason for that is because I'm going through some medical stuff and I'm trying to get that sorted out. So I plan on I have some people lined up and some decent shows lined up, but you might see a little bit of a lull in that, especially if I have the operation. I'm not going to be doing a whole lot with that. I'm going to be resting. But what Mark and I were talking about before the show, and I'll let him take the lead on this. We see a lot of disclosure coming out. We see RFK is going and really he's I expected the hatchet, but it seems like he's using the scalpel to cut out the rot of the CDC and the HHS organizations. And I'll let you take the floor there.
Yeah. Well, it's good to be with you, Brock, and sorry about your problems there with your back and your medical stuff that you needed to get done. I hope that gets resolved real soon for you, so you can find some relief, be on the upswing of it. Um, as far as and that kind of goes into what RFK is doing in the FDA and through the health organizations there, because yeah, he started off with a scalpel, but after he pointed out a few things that were pretty big issues, it started implicating Congress because of their financial contributions they were receiving from these pharmaceutical companies and these hospitals and these universities that were related to these, this research and funding this system of sickness. Um, now he's gotten into the meat and potatoes of it, and it's a cleaver. He took out five of the top people of NIH, and then he excuse me, CDC, and or NIH, I think it was, and then 1,000 people are scheduled to get axed out of the CDC. So if you were listening to to C-SPAN at all, you would have seen Elizabeth Warren piped up and did her little at RFK, trying to tell him that he was discontinuing critical research for new cures, and people were going to suffer. Well, okay, but what has all the science told us? Is that they're cooking the books so that they can get their vaccines out, so they can make their money. It's not about curing people, it's about keeping people sick.
Yeah, I mean, I don't trust hardly anything she says when it comes to that stuff because, as RFK pointed out, she's taking a lot of money from pharmaceutical companies. You know,
854,000, I think, is what he said.
it was quite a bit. Now,
And that
let's
was just
say,
for that time.
exactly. Let's imagine that I was a congressman. Now, if I took money from some firearms group like the NRA or Firearms Policy Coalition, it's no big deal because I've been members of those organizations. I did a lot of shooting. I dabbled in, starting to get into competition with that, and it's something that I really love. And there's like zero compromise on my morals. So if they say, "Oh, well, Brock's going to run, he's going to be a Florida congressman or whatever," and gun lobby groups, donated to me, it's already something that I believe in. So there's no compromise there. And that's one of the things that I think that, excuse me, sorry, I had to switch. One of the things I think that liberals in general don't um, practice or don't really comprehend is that we do our best with on the right side of the aisle to make an effort to practice what we preach, you know? So the principle is, my buddy, let's say his marriage failed, unfortunately, and he's a strong Christian, and he went out and he got remarried, and he's very happy. And, him and his wife both got baptized and stuff. But there's people that say criticize him. Oh, he can't keep a marriage together and blame it. A, Christians shouldn't judge each other, but B, who cares? And this world is so complicated with all the craziness that goes on in that. If stuff like that happens, I don't go ahead and judge him, but he knows that being married is the right thing to do, from a Christian perspective I'm talking about. And
Yep.
he went out, he ended a really a bad marriage, it was not healthy, and got remarried, and he's so happy. Everything, his wife's great. They're both going to church. Everything is great. And so tying that in with lobbying, you know, a lot of us would say now that the MAGA and the MAHA Make America Healthy Again movement, the basic path is do the least thing that you can to get yourself healthy as far as allopathic medicine. There's nothing wrong with it. There's very advanced surgery techniques for trauma and stuff like that. But a lot of us would say, hey, you're feeling low on energy. Why don't you take some B vitamin supplements or get your hormones checked or go to a more of a natural doctor first. I think a lot of us now
Yeah.
on our side of the aisle would say that.
Yeah.
So if we see somebody that has taken so much money from a pill company, that makes pills, honestly, that's going to be suspect to me. I don't know how you
Yep.
feel, but I feel immediately that that's in question.
Well, it's disingenuous because she didn't campaign on supporting pharmaceutical. You know what I mean? It's like the guy that's supporting the NRA or something like that. You can see in his track record. Oh well, he campaigned, on being a two-way champion. He was shooting out in the backyard in his gun range with his sons. That got on Facebook or whatever. So there's a path there in which you can see where somebody's at, and of course, if he gets elected, that means there's enough other people that are like-minded that they thought that was pretty important. If we lived in a world where people didn't believe that they had a right to protect themselves, then that guy would never get into office. That's just the way it is. But you don't see any of the senators touring a pharmaceutical lab and saying, look at the great science they're doing here. Look at all
Right.
these things, and talking with scientists about all these other things, and showing any of the details of their operations or their research. It's all
That's a
kind
good
of
point.
masked, right?
Yep.
It's kind of a masked
Yep.
thing.
Yep.
So that's what I don't like about it. I don't care if she took money from the pharmaceutical company.
Okay.
I don't. But because she didn't campaign on that, and she didn't reveal it, she was deceptive in her who she was allegiant to. You know,
Okay.
that's the deception, is who she owed her allegiance to. And um it's money that's not it's not money that was generally accounted for.
Okay.
You know, when you think of somebody who gave her the most support, what are the kind of people that are giving her support. We don't really learn about the pharmaceutical money until late in the game, after she's been there for years.
So when you see donations and so forth like that, you don't automatically paint with a broad brush and say the donations are bad. You want to see what do you stand on as a candidate, right?
if if you like men and women's sports and things like that, and you get money from the LGBT whatever plus group, don't be any less deceptive or less revealing than the guy that's supporting the 2A. and we'll see if you get elected.
Makes sense. Yeah,
You
I
know,
have been communicating on Twitter as we talked about beforehand. A lot of people were very anxious to get reform in the health. And, I think it's because a lot of us lost our jobs for not taking the experimental shots. Um, but I was also wise enough to know that I'm going to need a little bit of patience to take down a Goliath that has been there for so long and
yeah,
so deeply embedded. So I didn't immediately criticize RFK. And matter of fact, some people that I knew on Twitter, I was defending him, say, look, give the man a chance.
yeah,
Let's evaluate him after year one, not after month one. You know,
right,
he's going to be gathering information for the first 3 months. He probably won't do a lot. And so
yep,
now that we see him in there, we see that he, of course, is holding up to his word. Um, I also heard through some of my information in the back channels that the deep state, we'll call them, has put a hit out on him, and they don't like him, and I
I
know why,
I
because he
know.
wants to do radical change, and I think he really does want to make America healthier again. And I'm expecting, I'll let you go in on this, but I'm expecting him to do something with genetically modified foods as well. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that first of all, we have an ability to sue not only the pharmaceutical companies but these processed food companies. And I believe it comes under the 1983, 80. I can't remember exactly when it was, sometime in the 80s, where uh, Congress basically said, well, you want immunity for the products you're putting out, but we have to have a claims fund. So instead of suing you, they can sue to get this claim.
Are you
Do you see
talking
what I
about the
mean?
vaccine courts or something else?
Uh, it's not that it's the courts. It's the ability to sue. There's a fund that's there, and you can take it to court and get money from the vaccine companies. But it rolls over to the food industry too. Even if
Really?
the FDA approved it and it's a known poison, you can sue the FDA for all of that stuff. Uh,
Well, didn't he do that with Roundup and the cancer lawsuit? Didn't RFK do that?
no, no, the lawsuit of the Roundup Ready products were done before RFK ever even got into office.
I thought he had a hand in that. Am I wrong in that? Was that somebody else?
Now that's old. That's old news.
I know it's a couple years old, but I'm saying that they did successfully win a case for, was it, I think it was lymphoma. They found a link between lymphoma and Roundup. Is that right?
And Roundup, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I mean, yeah. I mean, even if it was a couple years ago, RFK wasn't in position a couple years ago.
Sure, sure. But I'm
So
saying though that
yeah,
that's the kind of stuff I would be expecting. Is that what you're hinting at?
yes, yes. Yeah, what I'm saying is that they ended up getting into this fund. So they didn't sue Monsanto's directly. They sued basically the FDA, and the FDA has this fund, right, for
Okay,
damages.
got it.
And you're right. However, there is another aspect of this where it has primarily been used in the pharmaceutical side of things, chemical side, but they can use that in the food industry too, because some of those chemicals that they're using are only used for construction, and they're considered carcinogenic.
Right. Yep.
Okay, and so there's a lot of things that are bad, known bad for you, that these food manufacturers are putting in these foods. And it would be great if the federal government took care of it all and ended it all for us. However, I think that it's appropriate for Americans to get some cojones and start suing these companies. um, you've all had a package of Doritos. I bet you don't even know how many parasites or how nasty that dye number was it dye number
It's FD number 6 yellow or something that, and yellow number 5, and then red number 6 or something like that.
yeah, red number, yeah, I don't remember what the number is. It's red
Yellow
and
number
yellow.
5 I thought was linked to a decrease in sperm count.
I'm not sure directly on that. I know that they've put it under a. I know they put done a smear on a fresh package of Doritos and found it crawling with parasites.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, I mean the thing is, it's like, and the reason why you think that they're just, how could they be so disgusting, right? But
Exactly.
you got to think too. What do those parasite? What serves the what purpose do those parasites serve on those Doritos?
They
That
make people
serves
sicker.
well. It also increases the craving for it.
Oh, I thought that was done with monosodium glutamate.
Well, the parasites want and crave the monosodium glutamate. That's why they're on in the Doritos to begin with.
I did not know that. I thought the chemical triggered your brain to be more hungry.
No, no, your parasites are triggering the chemical reaction that gets to your brain that says you're hungry for Doritos.
Oh, that's interesting. That's opposite of what I thought.
Yep. And that's why if you're like you got a craving for sugar and then you eat a bunch of sugar and then you get bloated. Your stomach gets tight, you know, and it doesn't digest. I mean, it doesn't feel good, right? Like it feels like, okay, yeah, I've overdone this. Well, that sugar was demanded by the parasites in your system and you fed it and now they're off gassing.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of that stomach blow, everybody says it's beer belly. There's parasites in beer.
Is that why the deep state and those cabal people don't like the ivermectin stuff?
That's that's one very good reason that I would assume why it was one that was taken off. It was well researched. People knew about it, and yet it was blocked from the use in the treatment of the COVID uh,
That and it was
diagnosis.
cheap, right?
It was cheap. It's readily available. You don't even have to go to a doctor to get it. There's ways to make ivermectin naturally, and this is what the medical industry is desperate to hide, is that with the right knowledge, naturopathic knowledge, especially knowledge of herbs. Um,
Yeah,
there's
like
a lot of things
oregano.
that
Oregano
are curable by it.
won't oregano kill stomach bugs is what I was reading.
Oregano oil will do a tremendous amount of stuff for you. It will kill candida and other parasites. It improves your skin. It gets rid of skin tags. Um, if you have like
So you just drop it on a skin tag?
I do it all ingestive. Like I
Oh,
do,
okay.
I don't usually do localized stuff. I think that it's better if it goes through your system and then you just have a
I have
consistency.
I have a really amazing Greek oregano here in my garden, and I like
Yeah,
to take it and strip it out and put it on a sandwich.
yeah, it's good stuff. Fresh oregano is really, it's mild and it's flavorful. You can sprinkle it in salads. It's good
And
stuff.
I was reading too, they were saying that this is a different spice, but cayenne pepper is like a vasodilator, and they said it's really good for your cardiovascular system.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you ever hear that?
I have. Yeah. In the relationship of how it activates your brain. It helps your cognitive abilities as well.
Cayenne
Um,
pepper does?
yep.
No
Um,
kidding.
Yeah, and
Is that why Indians are so smart?
that's right. Yeah, that's probably true. um, there was another one too. Oh, yeah, just dark chocolate. 5 grams of dark chocolate a day helps improve your brain function.
Oh, I do that. I take a couple pieces of dark. It's like I think it's 70%. It's quite strong.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's so many things that you can do if you just knew about it. You could avoid a lot of these things. You would realize that the medical industry claims to have a lot of authority over health, but in the end they haven't they know things about a system that is meant to be broken.
Do you know why RFK's voice is messed up? As I heard that he was poisoned.
I've heard the same. Yeah, it's really hard. I feel for the guy. I wish there was a way to help him out on that. I'd like to think that some new technologies are coming out here soon, so that maybe that'll get fixed. But it's really difficult to try to understand him and not be frustrated when it takes him some time. He's got to take a breath and do these things. It, I feel bad. I do feel bad for the guy, but he's doing a fantastic job and he's kicking ass. So I'm really glad he's in the spot that he is.
Me too.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm also glad that now we're seeing stuff, where what he's trying to do is clean up the organization and get rid of the bad people and help
Yeah.
them, uh I think that he's gonna try and right the ship, but it takes I think I read that they use an analogy here, a big cargo ship, it takes that a mile to turn around in the ocean.
That's
And
what
so
that's what the United States is. China is a ship that is like a jet boat. The moment Xi Jinping makes an edict, they can switch gears like light
right
years
away.
faster. Uh, Here in our country, it is much like a cruise ship. It's going to probably take out a few boats in that turn.
Yep. What kind of do you see going on next? I see I kind of feel like the economy is going to get better, slowly, steadily better for at least a couple years, providing that we can push off a major, global conflict. And obviously, the Russia-Ukraine thing is the biggest one on the radar. I hate to see, like I said, I hate to see all the civilian stuff that's happening in Gaza, but everything I'm hearing is that Israel wants to pretty much um, take over Gaza as far as military control. I don't know what'll happen after that, but if the United States can push off a lot of this global conflict, then I think the economy will get better for at least a couple years.
Yeah. The main thing is that the Palestinians that were there in Gaza, um, Trump had already made a program and made a deal with Egypt to allow them to
Right.
evacuate there. And
Yep.
so the people that are left, um, I don't know how much of it's being used for propaganda by Hamas. You know what I mean? I think that some of it, a lot of it's being used as propaganda by Hamas, but I think also Israel's taking advantage of it too. I think it's a two-way street in their conflict. It takes two to tango, and I think they're trying to they're orchestrating it in this manner. Um,
I had heard that Trump made a deal with Egypt to build like apartment style houses. Like Cairo is a gigantic city. It's huge. I think there's like
yeah,
20 million people.
yeah,
But in the outskirts of Cairo, they're going to be building new apartments there, and that's why I heard that they're going to let the Palestinians come in there. And let's say they're not lavish, but it's better than rubble, you know.
yeah.
It's got running water, food, and everything. So that's what I heard in the back channels, but I don't know what's going to happen there. And then I heard everyone should know this too, or assume that Trump is going to want to build big time condos in Gaza.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. With the Abraham Accords, they may have made that deal back at that time. To do that,
Right,
which is fine. He's negotiating on behalf of America. Um, we have our interests, and if people want us to be the police and to protect things, then it's got to have something for it, the United States, because we're the ones sending our young men and women out to defend these ideals, right? And so it's got to have value to where the sacrifice, you know the sacrifice is just some sort of constellation for, um you know or there's some consolation for the sacrifice, is what I mean to
right.
say.
Yep, yep,
um the past has been, is that certain companies uh would get advantage. We When we went into uh Iraq, that was a Halliburton deal, right? Cheney
right.
and all that shit. And so, but for the service people, where was the benefit? They come home with PTSD and a bunch of sand in their ass crack. You
Yeah,
know,
exactly.
I mean, come on. And some of the guys knew, some of the guys know, some of the senior officers, they know there's advantages within that, within a war zone, or that you can take. Um, that will allow you some compensation, but it's not an institutionalized program. You kind of have to be in the know.
Yeah, I know what you're saying there.
Yeah.
Um, I wanted to kind of switch gears too. I had heard some, if anybody doesn't know, obviously you're watching this on Rumble. I have a Telegram channel and I release information that I get. And, some of it, I'll just be honest, I have no way of vetting it, but I do just put it out there. So, um, you know, I'm getting better about just putting it out there. I used to try and vet everything and, really see if it's true. But now I said, I'm just going to put it out there and I'll let people make their own decision with that. But I'm putting it out there and I'm putting it on my Signal too. My Signal is more of a private group. But one of the things that I heard is I think the girl's name, I don't know, Scheinbaum might be Mexico, but there was a girl, um, was it Maria? But she actually won the Venezuela election last year. Trump knows this. He know that Maduro stole it, and now,
Yeah.
you know, there's a big, you have a dictatorship, but you have people, the audience, you guys have to realize not all dictatorships are evil. There's majority of them, the power goes to their head and they're bad, but some are decent. Like
Yeah.
you could argue that Russia is sort of like a dictatorship right now, but you know what? The people are not starving. The people have everything they need. They do have a war, which they started with Ukraine, and I'm not in favor of. But to contrast that, Venezuela is a dictatorship, and it used to be the most wealthy nation in South America. And the United States, started putting special forces operations there last year, and I was there to witness that. And they were doing what we call soft infiltration from Colombia into Venezuela. A couple guys got caught and arrested by the Venezuelans. But now that Trump's in power, he told Maduro, hey, that girl, I think her name's Maria, I'll look it up. She won, and you had better relinquish control over there because Maduro is a bastard. He starved his own people and he sends all kind of drugs and stuff. He knows about all that stuff that's going on, trying to subvert and do evil things to the United States. So he doesn't want to invade, okay? He's not Trump generally is an anti-war president, but he doesn't like when people mess with us, right? So he wanted to send a clear signal without actually doing a land invasion. And this involves Russia because Russia is sort of helping and propping up the Maduro regime, you know? So
Yep.
now that Trump's back in power, he can talk to Putin and tell him everything that's going on. The Venezuelan people hate Maduro. I know a couple of Venezuelans. They can't stand him. You know,
Yeah.
anybody that starves their own people. They were starving so bad they were eating animals from the zoos because they had
Yep.
no food. And this is like one of the most oil-rich nations in the whole world.
Yeah, it makes you wonder who was propping up. Was Venezuela a dictatorship where Maduro was at the helm making the decisions, or was it a narco state where they had Maduro as a puppet, and then the narco state benefiting from all that, right? So,
You might be
what?
onto something.
Yeah, and so the bigger grab is that Trump has always wanted the Venezuelan oil. He wanted access to it. He said it in his first administration. Why don't we get a piece of that? Why can't we get a piece of that? If we get involved with Venezuela, America should get a piece of the oil deal.
Okay.
Okay. And that's what he's continuing. So he's making, you can see that he's got a depth in his process that is a little deeper than most people. Um, I'd say 99.9.5% of people. And, um, and you can see where he's taking care of a narcotics issue and a drug revenue route, as well as getting rid of a dictator for the people who illegitimately stayed in or illegitimately kept his seat in power. Okay, so then Trump is also making a move for the Venezuelan people. Um, and then on the back end of that, how do you think we're going to get paid back to help stabilize that?
Oil.
Bam. So he's a brilliant man, and it's not a it's not a greedy capitalistic thing to think about that. Um,
No, not at all.
no, we
You want to
send
get
we send
paid, you
ships, we
want to get
send men
right.
that could sink in the middle of the ocean on an attack, right? We've got ground forces that could be shot to ribbons. Those lives have to count and matter for something. And if that
Exactly.
comes in the form of the oil coming back to the U.S. to help those families heal and to put back into the veterans program to help them heal from PTSD and things that have happened in war, that's the kind of system I want to see.
Yep. He thinks about the full picture, doesn't he?
Sure does. And I that's the reason why I can still support him, is because I
Right.
can kind of I can kind of comprehend some of some of his big moves that are hard for people to look at, because I've been in business and psychology. And
Yep. Well, I wanted to keep do a nice short little podcast here. So I want
okay.
to leave you the I'll let you have the closing remarks today.
All right. um just keep hanging on. Anybody that's kind of been on the fence or having some second thoughts about how our country is going, remember, when you're turning around an economy that they meant to destroy, it takes time to reboot it. Okay, we're a big country, like we said, it's a big ship. And so, yes, we are going to suffer for it, but it's it's the karma that we get for ignoring it for so long as a society. Okay, I know there's people that have been involved, and some of us have been heavily involved. I'm not talking to you. Okay, I'm talking about as a whole. The public has been pretty ignorant about our system and what enslaves them, and that has been that there's karmic consequence for that. You got to bleed that old stuff out and renew with new vision, new strength, and a way to recreate the future.
I agree. Yep. Everybody try to have patience and you know, if you need to take a break, go out, take a walk in a little local park or something, you know. So I appreciate everybody for listening, and I will answer any questions anybody has, or if you want a dialogue, please join our Telegram. So thank you all for listening, and we will see you next time, probably in about a week. Thank
See
you.
you guys. Thank you, Brock.